a buttercream technique on a cake, and I thought I would film that so you could see what I do. It's kind of like buttercream ruffles, but I'm going to do straight lines, and it's going to make a pretty cool effect on the cake. So keep on watching so you can see what I do. Okay, to start, I just have a plastic icing bag, and I am going to use tip number, where is it? Tip number 124. It's a rose petal tip. I also have my trusty turntable with the piece of non-skid pad that prevents the cake from sliding around. So I filled the bag with the purple icing. It's just regular American buttercream icing that I'm using for this cake. And I have the tip already on here, so it's ready to go. Here I have the cake that I'm going to be putting the ruffle stripe buttercream things on. I don't even know what to call them. I lightly iced it, as you can see. You can kind of see the cake through, but I wanted to put a like a thin coat of icing on it. And I usually just wipe off the cake board before I start working on something like this, just to remove any extra icing that might still be on there. Just like any other time, I always try to find the front of my cake by seeing what looks the most symmetrical on both sides going around. And this is a 6-inch round cake. Not sure if that matters, but I think this is going to be the front of my cake. So I'm just going to mark the back of the cake just with a line with a knife or something, just so I can see where the back of my cake is. When I have a really big bag like this, I usually clip the top shut, and then halfway down I will cinch the bag in the middle and then twist it. It's a lot easier to control the pressure when you use less of the icing. If you use all of this bag and try to control it up here, it's a lot more difficult. I hope that makes sense. So I zoomed in on this cake, and hopefully my huge head won't be in the way. So we'll see. I'll try to stay out of the way so you can see what I'm doing. But this tip has a big end and a smaller end. So we want to put the big end against the cake, and I'm just going to try to keep it as even as I can. So I'm not going to do it on a tilt. I'm going to try to keep it in a straight line, and I'm going to pipe straight lines of buttercream going around the cake. So starting in the back, I'm going to start at the bottom and put the big end against the cake and squeeze and move the cake board with my other hand. Really? It doesn't matter. Things like that'll happen. It's not going to be perfect the whole way around. There's the first one. I also recommend paper towels so you could just keep wiping off the tip. And then you're going to start again. So holding it straight, so the big end is touching the cake, and then just go on top of that other layer that you just did. Okay. Try to zoom in a little more so you can see better what I'm doing. So I'm just going on top of that last layer that I did and doing the same thing. Just keeping the back, the big side pressed into the cake, not too hard, but you want the line to attach to the cake. So the thick part is pressed into the cake, the thin part is facing me, and I'm just going to keep making stripes on top of each other. Wiping it off, and starting all over again. I never breathe when I do stuff like this. Ugh. I start to twist the bag as it empties of buttercream, so you could still have full pressure here. And oh look, it matches my nails. Keep going around. Trying to keep that tip as straight as you can, because if you have it on an angle, then these ribbons are going to be facing up or down, and I kind of wanted to keep them straight. You see, when I lift up, then I try to just start right around that spot that I lifted up. It's not going to be perfect, but it's kind of nice to have a little bit of a rustic look to it. You could try to make them perfect, but it's hard. Trying to keep the tip straight. Now I want to get a little more buttercream down to this part. So I'm just going to squeeze some down from the top and then twist again. Not sure if you know this, but after every time you refill a buttercream bag, you want to burp the bag and basically get the air out. So just keep squeezing until you lose that air bubble in there, and then that won't happen while you're doing it on your cake. I'm getting closer to the top, so I just want to be careful with the pressure that I'm pushing the tip into the cake. But I do want to come up evenly over the top. So it can get a little tricky. I'll show you what I do. I'm going to try not to mess up the top part of the cake. So just keep piping ribbons around. And I'll fix any imperfections with the spatula at the end. Now I'm starting to shake. I'm piping like right along the top edge now. Not really pressing the tip into the cake. So I'm going to just pipe another strip. All the way around. Not going too far above the top of the cake. I just have a glass of water, and this is an Atico, where is it? It's just an angled spatula, a tapered angled spatula, which is one of my favorite ones to use. I'm just going to dip the spatula in the hot water, and I'm using some of the water that's on here to smooth this down. So I'm gently just going to press down to seal that top layer to the top of the cake. Wiping off the buttercream as it starts to stick and dipping it back into the water. And then I'm just using light pressure and pressing, trying to get rid of the seam. Dipping it in the water, using the water on the back to press down. Light, gentle pressure. When it starts to stick to the back, I wipe it off on a paper towel, dip it in water, and then start all over again. Okay, now that we've gone the whole way around, it's still not that pretty, so we just want to refine the top of that cake. So I'm just going to keep dipping this in water and lightly going over it until those marks go away. And I do have some water on the end of this spatula so it can help melt the buttercream together. I see some lines here that I'm just refining, trying to get them to go away. Just by dipping this in the water and letting the water take away any of the patterns that are still in the top of the cake. This part, this line fell down, and that could annoy me. The old me would have gotten annoyed if this strip was facing down. But the new me, who can accept that things aren't going to be perfect, just lets that be part of the design. It's not that big of a deal. So I like how it starts and stops, and it gives it more of like a rustic feel to it. Now, the front of my cake might have changed now. I could just decide on which part that I like the pattern the best. Like this right here, it looks pretty clean. This right here, it looks a little more rustic. So you just eyeball the cake and decide what you want to be the front and what you want to be the back. And there you have it. There's a pretty cool ruffly-ish buttercream technique that you can do on your cakes. So here you go. Here's a pretty cool technique that you can do in buttercream on your cakes. You can kind of see up close. It's a pretty neat pattern. I do it every now and then. I just think it looks really cool. So if you have any questions, you can just leave them below. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And you can follow me on Instagram and Facebook and at my website. And if you want to see more videos like this, just hit the subscribe button. And I will see you on the next one. Bye.